Isolation day 56, Wednesday the 13th of May. I hope you're all well and looking after yourselves. It's day 3 of the transition from keto to low-fat, plant-based whole food. And today was an interesting one. It was one of those days where things happen and you just have to kind of get on with it. So let me show you what happened. Let's have a look at the decision trees first, and then we'll have a look at Chronometer. This is the first page of day 3. Wednesday the 13th of May, and you can see I started this at 1:15 a.m, was hypo, didn't wait, well, took my blood a couple of hours, clearly fell asleep, took my blood a couple of hours later and it was low again and again, and what I did was I switched my CGM off at this time. When I say I switched it off, the pump switched it off. So I took the carbs and then the pump switched the CGM off. So the problem was it was increasing, but it was still off at this time, and then it just went up to 10.4. So I went from low to high, which is really frustrating. So what I have done is, although I've put the CGM in, I've actually switched it off entirely, because I can't have the pump switching off for me, because that'll be a significant amount of time that it'll be off, and I'd rather track it in this way. So 10.4 hyper, took some some insulin, came down. I then had breakfast or lunch or brunch, as it may be, at 12:30, 30 grams of carbs. Here's a picture of lunch, brunch, which was the Mexican bean breakfast. The next breakfast on the list, 16:1 was my carb ratio, 1.875, and you can see 3 hours later, absolutely fine. So my view is, I think that 16:1 is actually working okay. Yet 2 hours after that, I'm low again. So this tells me, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 lots of jelly babies. JB is jelly babies. You know, that's a lot of carbs to be taking because my blood sugar's going low. And yeah, a bit frustrating really. But what that tells me is my background insulin is too high. So let's have a quick look at the second page. And this is the second page. So my bloods went up. Clearly the jelly babies that I took before were too heavy. My bloods went up and they just continued to go up. And then I went hyper. So I had to take a correction dose to bring that down. And then I got back to a level at dinner time, had my evening meal, 20 grams of carbs, 14.1, 1.42 of insulin, meat-free mince. Now, I know that if I were a sort of militant vegan, or I was militant about this, then meat-free food is not looked upon very kindly for a number of reasons. It's obviously processed, so it's not good. But like I said before, for the first week, I'm supposed to be eating the stuff that I was going to eat before, that I was eating before. And actually, I was eating this kind of food. You know, I was eating the meat-free mince because I was under the impression that too much meat was not, or I was feeling that too much meat was not good for me. So I was taking the Linda McCartney sausages or the meat-free mince, and I was eating that perhaps once a week. This isn't out of the ordinary for me. And then again, it goes low and low and low. I got back on track about 2 o'clock in the morning. My basal was still 24.35. It's very clear that my background insulin is way too high, or is high, too high. So what I did was I did the calculation, 152 grams of carbs, 31.8 units of insulin, which is 4.8. Now, as I mentioned before, my CGM had switched off the pump. So this basal insulin wasn't going in for 2.5 hours, which is about 2.5 units. If you take that off, I'm actually up to a carb to insulin ratio of 5.2. I think the conclusion I can make is that, yes, we're definitely moving. I need to make some adjustments to my basal, which I have done. And I've made adjustments to my basal in the evening and throughout the night to reduce that. My basal is now 22.65. So it's gone down about 2 units, which would make sense. Okay, I think I'll leave that there really, apart from to say, look, you know, this is a bit of a write-off day because I couldn't come to any conclusions about actual insulin to carb ratios throughout the day because I was going hypo, bit of a bloody nightmare really. Tomorrow, or today actually, I'm recording this in the evening, has been much better. I will now show you my chronometer. So you can see here, May the 13th, the vitamins that I take, the ton of jelly babies that I also took, some coffee. Here's my breakfast, almost 40 grams of carbs, 5 grams of fat, so we know that's pretty good. My lunch I didn't have, obviously. Dinner was 5.9 grams of fat, so in the entire day 10.9 grams, which we already know, and carbs of 20 for evening meal. The entire day you can see 11 grams of fat, which is pretty damn good actually. I'm happy with that. The 160 grams of carbs, I think I'd actually tracked about 153 on the reports. But you can see, because I didn't have lunch, there's a few less greens along here. Only 55% of the nutrient targets. A number of the vitamins haven't been ticked. A number of the minerals are a bit low, and protein's a bit low as well. The fat is obviously 44%. So what I would say is fats are only actually 12% of the daily intake. So that's obviously very good. That's kind of where we want it to be. I have got a deficit in calories. It seems to be at the moment a constant, which I'm assuming is why the Mastering Diabetes team tell you that you should eat as much as you possibly want, and you should be having plenty of carbs to be able to hit your calories. One of the things I have done, and I'm learning as I go along, is on here I did have exercise included, but I haven't been exercising in the last few days, so I intend to change that on Friday. So in 2 videos time you will then see on here there will be some exercise that will add to the calories, which means I'll have to eat more, I'm assuming. So we'll leave it there today. Yes, it could have been a better day. Yes, I could have had better results, and I could have come to a conclusion about insulin to carb ratios. But actually, these are the kind of things that are sent to test us, and I just have to plow on and make sure and have a better day tomorrow and have a better day the day after. You know, one of the things that I can categorically say, and I wasn't expecting this to happen quite so quickly, is my insulin to carb ratio is increasing, and I wasn't expecting it to be this quick, and for the fact that I've reduced the amount of fat that I'm eating to have that much of a dramatic effect. But clearly it is affecting me. I'm going low far too often for it not to be affecting me. So actually, that's a really positive thing. You know, let's take the positives from it and move on. I'll reduce the basal rate. I'll reduce my, I'll further adjust my insulin to carb ratios based on tomorrow's food. Okay, have a good night, everyone. Bye.